Hey. Today I want to talk about Assassin's Creed 2. I recently played the entirety of Assassin's Creed 2 from start to finish. I had this wave of nostalgia that had gushed over me. Of recent times, people have been taking turns throwing spitballs at Ubisoft, but I remember back in the day when I played Assassin's Creed 2, I had a lot of fun. I played it I think when I was 12 or 13. uh, had a really hard time trying to finish that game. I played Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood together back and finished the entirety of Assassin's Creed 2. Assassin's Creed 2 is probably my third favorite Assassin's Creed game. The first one being Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and the second one being Black Flag. So it's Brotherhood, Black Flag, and then Assassin's Creed 2. I plan to cover all three games, make videos on all three games in the near future. Before I get into the nitty gritties, I want to talk about the overall feel of the game. Having played Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, 2 felt sort of very tame to me, but I mean, it is expected. It is a prequel of a really good game. Like Brotherhood, a lot of people still consider Brotherhood as their top game of all time when it comes to Assassin's Creed franchise, obviously. So Assassin's Creed 2 sort of fell flat in some places for me because even I have finished Assassin's Creed Brotherhood back in the day. So that was one major issue. But there are a lot of things Assassin's Creed 2 does really well as compared to Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, where in Brotherhood it is majorly about Ezio, who's the main character of the Assassin's Creed trilogy. So basically, there are three games in the trilogy of Ezio. We have Assassin's Creed 2, obviously, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and Revolutions. I have not played Revolutions. From what I've heard and seen, it's not a really good game as compared to Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood. Basically, really good is obviously relative when it comes to Ubisoft games, but that's besides the point. I really find the top three games which I just mentioned, like, they're just peak single player experiences for me when it comes to Assassin's Creed's offerings. So when I picked up Assassin's Creed 2, it was a wave of nostalgia just hit me. So I was really happy playing this game. Getting into the real story of Assassin's Creed 2, the story is actually pretty good. I'll basically explain the premise. So spoiler alert if you want to play the game in the near future and don't want to. Uh, the game came out in 2009. If you still haven't played it, my bad, I guess. So the premise of the game is we have Ezio, who is like this young and brash teenager. He keeps getting into trouble. He's the crooked one, I guess. So Ezio Torre, he comes from a family of assassins. So his father is an assassin, his uncle is an assassin. Basically, everybody in his family are assassins. So the game starts off with him being this brash and bratty teenager, and then towards the end of the game, like, you see the journey of this main character evolving in this sort of way. So that's the whole premise of the game. So the start of the game, what happens is there is this great conspiracy against Ezio's family, and some of his family members get killed. They get hanged in front of the village for treason. So because Ezio is betrayed by a certain group of people, he seeks out vengeance against all these people. There was one part of this game that really pissed me off is basically to reach the main conspirator who was directly responsible for killing Ezio's father, his brother, both his brothers. So Ezio has a elder brother, younger brother, and a younger sister. So basically, the main conspirator who is directly responsible for killing off literally his almost his entire family. At the end, it's him, his mother, and his younger sister who ends up surviving. Ezio sort of spares the main villain's life. Like, he takes the life of everyone leading up to the main villain, and then at the last moment he just snaps out and says, "Too much for me." It is just crazy to me to think that for the entire game you seek vengeance, and at the end you just let the dude go. Just blows my mind. So this plot point of the game actually bothered me a lot, so I looked it up and saw if other people also felt the same way about the ending as me. And this is what came up when I looked up on why Ezio chose to spare Rodrigo Borgia, who's like the ending villain of the game. It says to humanize him. Bro, for the whole game, he killed like tens of people to get to the final boss. And you're saying sparing this final boss's dude, whose sole mission is to basically control everyone around him, is somehow going to humanize him? Like, I I don't know. Like, this is not a good plot point. Like, it is not a good sequence of plot. Like, you take the main character and you sort of build him up as this person who has gone out to seek vengeance, and when this main character reaches like the last boss, like the final boss, you just sort of give him this epiphany. You just sort of make him this god sent angel, and you make the main character a forgiving one. I just don't understand that. But that's one of the major complaints I had when it comes to the story. The other good things about the story is everybody who sort of helps Ezio along the way to kill the conspirators who were directly responsible for killing his family sort of help him in different ways, and all of them sort of have a voice, and they come together to make sure that Ezio becomes like the member of the assassin's family. So all the side characters do sort of rub off on him on the right ways, which is good. There is no side character where you feel uh, didn't have a good influence over Ezio. So he had a great. The one great thing was all the side characters were of had a good presence in Ezio's life. Apart from that, the reason why I really like Brotherhood and Assassin's Creed 2 is purely because of the setting. It is set in Renaissance Italy, so you meet characters which you like the Medici family, like Leonardo da Vinci, obviously. You have all these. You have the Great Sistine Chapel. I think it's the Sistine Chapel. I might be wrong. So you have all these great historical figures and great historical places. So you discover these figures and these places from the lens of a person from that time, which is what makes Assassin's Creed games so good. That is one of the major reasons, because Renaissance Italy had this perfect blend of not too old but also a bit modern, in the sense that Ezio gets a gun later on in the game, like a mini pistol that he can attach to his arm. So it does offer a bit of modernness, which is always great in a game, which contrasts the time or which contrasts the time at which the game was being played out in. So that was one of the major plus points that I had when it came to the game. Coming back to the story, like I said, it is like a major revenge plot theme, but the ending sort of falls flat for me. But they do pick up the ending of Assassin's Creed 2 at Brotherhood. So Brotherhood directly starts at the moment Assassin's Creed 2 ends. So that's one of the good things, I guess. But for those who haven't played Brotherhood and have just played 2, like, it just feels like an experience where the ending is not satiating, so they're just left feeling for more. So basically, there are two major uh, cities, sort of areas that you play in. One is Firenze, which is where the game starts, and then you have Venice, and you have some other side areas. But these are the two areas that I distinctly remember because of how well designed it was. The free flow parkour in this game is absolute perfection. Like, so basically, for the entirety of the game, you could just travel from one place to other on the roofs without putting your feet to the ground, which is a great plus point. Everything that you see is sort of scalable, and that's an amazing feature to have for a game that was released in 2009. So there is also like a side mission sort of element to the game. So there are two side mission sort of element to the game, which is a requirement for you to get the actual ending in the end. So one of those side mission requirements is basically there is this secret dungeon that Ezio's uncle sort of takes him to. So to give you a premise of how Ezio meets his uncle, Ezio's family basically gets killed for treason. They get hung for treason, and then Ezio escapes with his mother and younger sister to another village, another part of the city where his uncle lives. It's like this big estate, and like a village is built around this estate. So that's the place that Ezio eventually ends up seeking asylum in and moving out of his house from Firenze. So in this villa estate, which is called the Villa Auditore, I think that's what it's called. Um, Basically, there is this secret dungeon when there is this hidden, where there is this hidden armor of Altair, who is like the main character in the first Assassin's Creed game. So to unlock this hidden armor, basically there was like 6 chambers that you have to go through, and these chambers are basically like puzzle chambers. So you have to solve like a parkour puzzle, solve it in the way you climb and mount things, I guess. So you solve these and you get like a token at the end with, and you have to collect 6 of them to basically unlock this armor. With the armor looks really good, by the way. I unlocked it before the game had end before the game had ended because I just wanted to get it over with. Also, the parkour elements in the game in this particular sections, they were actually pretty good. They were actually challenging as compared to like the rest of the game. Apart from like one section of the game, the rest of the game is like completely easy going. Like there was no challenging element as of such. I don't know if you could have altered the difficulty. I I genuinely didn't come across an option where you could have altered the difficulty, but throughout the game, uh, the gameplay experience, when it comes to the toughness of the gameplay, it was almost smooth sailing except for one part of the game. So in one part of the game, I'll tell you the premise of how you get to that part of the game. So the whole story of the game is basically revolving around pieces of Eden, and this piece of Eden in particular is called the apple. So in the story, Ezio basically gets his hand on the apple, but at the last moment, some person, you don't know who this person is, but this person sort of ends up stabbing Ezio and taking the apple for himself, and he goes back and takes over Ezio's entire hometown. And in the process of taking over his entire hometown, he has like 9 sort of generals of his to basically help him control the whole city. Killing each of these generals was such a pain in the every time you even got remotely detected. Like when I'm saying remotely, even with the slightest detection, the game would automatically desynchronize and you had to restart the mission all over again. So this was the only time in the game where I actually had to strategize. I actually had to be completely unseen, basically be the sneaky assassin that the game intended you to be from the starting. When these 9 generals sort of came up, I actually had really fun looking back at it right now, even though it was tough. The way that they have made tough is what pisses me off the most, is because these people, they're not made tough because in the general sense, like it's not hard to reach them, or they're like right in front of your eyes. It's not hard to like search for them and stuff like that. They're just tough for the sake of being tough, which is sort of takes away from the experience. But it was tough, and I wanted a challenge from this game, which this game did offer. Even though it was almost towards the end of the game, I really had fun killing these 9 people. So Ezio's father basically learns of why the main villain in the story. Yeah, his name was Rodrigo Borgia. So he's basically the villain of the entire, wants to find a piece of Eden, which is like this ancient artifact which grants you superhuman abilities, which is what the entire franchise of Assassin's Creed is based on, to find these ancient artifacts. So they basically use Desmond, who's like the modern day descendant of the assassin family, the Ezio's family. Basically, he even looks like Ezio, so they basically use his DNA and plug him to this machine called the Animus, where he basically unlocks the memories of his ancestors. So that process of him unlocking these memories is what we play out as Assassin's Creed. So basically, the villain of the story, who is Rodrigo Borgia, wants two pieces of Eden to sort of have a whole and basically become like this prophet. I Basically, the goal of Rodrigo Borgia is to become the prophet in the world of Assassin's Creed. So he has two goals to basically become that prophet. One is to collect the pieces of Eden, and the other is to basically become the Pope of Roma, which is Spain. Once he becomes like the Pope, he also gains access to like the secret underground area where these two pieces of Eden's come together, and he basically becomes the prophet. So the Auditore family, who is Ezio's father, basically learns of this plot, and he thinks that if this continues and ends up happening, then Rodrigo Borgia might become too powerful, way powerful beyond measure. So he tries to sort of stall him, but Rodrigo Borgia sort of learns of this premise and ends up killing his family for treason. So that's the whole plot premise of the game. Ezio doesn't know about this. We learn with Ezio slowly as the game unwinds, and finally we sort of encounter and we fight Rodrigo Borgia at the end. So that's the whole premise of the game. Oh, there's also another aspect to the collectability of the game. So one is like the tokens of the various assassins to unlock Altai's armor. So that's one part. The other part is codex pages, where the more codex pages you collect, the more health you get. And to unlock the last segment of the game, to get the 100% synchronization, you had to collect all the codex pages, which is, it's great. It's not that bad. Like when it comes to collectability stuff, like a lot of games do have this collectible element where you have to collect certain elements, and sometimes the reward system is rigged against you, where for the amount of work that you have put into collecting these stuffs, you don't get an equitable reward. But in this game, it sort of makes sense, and I sort of enjoyed collecting stuff. So with that being said, this is the first game in the Assassin's Creed franchise where you can actually swim, because Venice as a city, the way it's designed is a lot of it is water, and to go from one part of the city to another part, you basically have to swim, which I really loved. It sort of bring a different vibe to the city. I think the city design of Venice is probably one of my favorite designs for a location or any game almost ever. It is so good, so beautiful. Every part of the city sort of has something going on with it, and amazing stuff. So I also want to talk about combat. One major thing that really pissed me off about the game is the control scheme. So Ubisoft has not put out like the key mappings. From if you're playing on PC and playing on keyboard and mouse, you're gonna have a really hard time trying to figure out what control is what. Since I have played like previous Assassin's Creed titles before, so I sort of know my ways around what what button does what. But like if you're a new complete beginner, please pick some other game apart from Assassin's Creed 2, and probably then come to Assassin's Creed 2, because it's got like there is no key mappings. It's instead of saying to go forward, it's W. It is just an up arrow, and like the button E and shift is like a head icon, which is so weird that it's done like that, and they've not patched it for PC and they've updated it on Steam. Also, I picked up this game because this game was on sale, so that's that. Apart from that, I want to talk about the combat. So there are a lot of elements to combat in the game, but because the game is so easy, you don't use half of the combat that they teach you in game. So it, there's not many instances where I got into combat to begin with. It was just like, and even if I did get into combat, I would just chuck a smoke bomb and use my hidden blades, which is fun. One of the reasons I actually picked up this game is because recently was reading this book from Walter Isaacson called Leonardo da Vinci. Walter Isaacson is this really famous biographer who writes biography of people like Elon Musk and Steve Jobs. So when he had written this biography, when I picked up this book which was on Leonardo da Vinci, I think I've gotten like halfway through the book, and I sort of wanted to have like a first-hand experience of that time, and Assassin's Creed 2 was my gateway through that experience. Yeah, the game is sort of dated, but the story that it tells is pretty memorable. The setting that the game is set up in is pretty memorable. Hopefully, you pick up the game in the near future. That's been about it. See ya.